Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Delegate Keith Haynes, the Chair of Public Safety and Administration Subcommittee on the House Appropriations Committee. We will now call to order the Public Safety and Administration's hearing for the purposes of subcommittee budget decisions. I would first like to just begin by thanking everyone who has been involved in this process with subcommittee budget decisions, beginning with our Vice Chair, Proctor, and our committee members, Delegate McKay and Delegate Acevera, our committee staff, Ken Weaver, and for this process, our coordinator for budget decisions, Caleb Weiss, and all of the other analysts who have provided tremendous analysis of all of the agencies which we have had to jointly hold budget hearings with the Senate this particular session. This has been a unique session for all of us because I think this is probably the first time that we have had to have a session during a 12-month plus long global pandemic. And so a lot of our hearings, as you know, have been joint with the Senate. And our budget decisions today will not be joint. They will be strictly the decisions of the Public Safety and Administration Subcommittee. And so with that, we're going to go ahead and begin in the same fashion which we ordinarily would proceed with, as if we were live and in person in subcommittee hearing rooms. Our coordinator, Mr. Weiss, will guide us through the various agencies in the order which they will be taken, and will yield to the appropriate analysts to walk through those documents, and at the in the same fashion as we are making public decisions, the subcommittee will decide on those particular items. And so with that, Mr. Weaver, Mr. Weiss, is there anything that I'm overlooking before we begin? Okay, I don't think so. So at this point, Mr. Weiss, would you go ahead and get us started?
Yeah, certainly. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So for the first, on page 1 of the budget document, we have the judiciary. And the first item for the judiciary is providing for a cut to increase the judiciary turnover rate to 2%. And this would include a cut of a little over $1 million in savings. And the agency concurred with this cut.
Do I hear a motion?
So moved, Mr. Chairman. Adopt.
Okay, sir. All right, so moved. And properly second, Nets.
Okay, the next item here, number 2 in the decision document for judiciary, is adding language reducing the funds for the 2% general salary increase in the judiciary in fiscal 2022. The agency disagreed with this one.
Okay, do I hear a motion?
Move to adopt, sir.
Okay, second?
A second,
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Okay. Any opposers? Okay, Nets.
Moving on to the next page, and item 3 for the judiciary, which is reducing funds for the 3.5% merit increase in fiscal 2022. The judiciary also disagreed with this one.
Move to adopt, sir.
Do I hear a second?
I second it, Mr. Chair.
Okay, it's been properly second. I hear no opposes. All Nets.
Okay. Item 4 is adding language restricting $8.25 million for the implementation of DeWolf v. Richmond in the judiciary. The judiciary concurred with this recommendation.
Do I hear a motion?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, second.
I second, Mr. Chair.
All in favor, aye. Opposed, nay. Hearing none. Next.
Okay. The final item on this page, number 5, is to reduce funding for the capital improvement projects in the judiciary by $500,000.
Hear a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move to reject this.
Okay. Do we have a second? Do we have a second? Madam Vice Chair, do we have a second?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we have a second.
It has been moved and properly second. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, nay. Hearing none. Next.
Moving on to page 3 of the decision document, we have a few pieces of committee narrative recommended by DLS for the judiciary. The first is an appointed attorney, a report on appointed attorney costs and program utilization. The agency concurred with this one.
Is there a motion?
I move to adopt, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, is there a second?
I second, Mr. Chair.
All in favor, say aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Next.
The next is to request a report on the status of major IT projects within the judiciary. The agency also concurred with this one.
Okay,
Move to adopt, Mr. Chairman.
okay.
I second, Mr. Chairman.
It's been moved and properly adopted. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, nay. Hearing none. Motion carries.
Okay. The last item on this thing is requesting a report on judgeship needs in fiscal 2023. The agency also concurred with this recommendation.
Move to adopt, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a
I
second?
second, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, all in favor, say aye. Opposed, nay. Hearing none. Motion carries.
On page 4 of the decision document, we have the last recommendation here, which is of committee narrative, which is to request a report on court performance measures. The judiciary concurred with this one.
Move to adopt, sir.
Do we have a second?
I second, Mr. Chair.
Okay, all in favor, say aye. Opposed, nay. Hearing none. Motion carries.
Number 10 here on the same page is a color page item, which restricts $50,000 in the judiciary pending a report on continuing legal education requirements in the state and also pro bono requirements for barred attorneys in the state.
Okay, this is a color page item. Do I hear a motion?
I move to adopt there, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
I
Second,
move to second, Mr. Chair.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Hearing none. Motion carries.
Next, we'll have the public defender and the analyst will present.
Starting on page 6, the Department of Legislative moved to concur with the governor's allowance. It's number 1 on page 6.
Okay, and this is,
For the Office of the Public Defender.
okay. Is there a motion?
Move to adopt, Mr. Chair.
Okay, second.
I second, Mr. Chair.
All right, all in favor, say aye. Opposed, nay. Hearing none. Motion carries.
The next item on this page is a color page item, which requests a pay and benefits comparison report for public defender positions in the state of Maryland with other localities and an update on the workload reduction pilot program.
Okay, is there a motion?
Move to adopt, Mr. Chair.
I second, Mr. Chair.
Moved and properly second. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, nay. Hearing none. Motion carries.
The next page starts the Office of the Attorney General. This is page 7. Number 1 on page 7 would increase turnover on one new position within the agency to 25% to allow time for the standard hiring process. The amount reduction is approximately $22,000 in general funds.
Do I hear a motion to reject?
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, is there a
Reject.
second?
I second, Mr. Chair.
Okay, all in favor, say aye. Opposed, nay. Hearing none. Motion carries. Next.
Number 2 on this page is to adopt committee narrative to report on the off-budget special fund accounts that the Office of the Attorney General maintains only for 1 year's for 1 year reporting balance.
Okay, is there a motion?
Move to reject there, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, second.
Second,
Second.
Mr. Chair.
All in favor say aye, opposed is nay, hearing none, motion carries. Next.
The third item on page 7 is a BRFA action. It would alter, it's the provision 1 of the BRFA, and it would alter the mandate to provide funding for the Office of the Attorney General Consumer Protection Fund, and it would be a contingent reduction of $700,000 in general funds.
Is there a motion?
I'd move to reject there, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, sir.
Second, Mr. Chair.
All in favor say aye, opposed is nay, hearing none, motion carries. Next.
The second BRFA provision, which relates to the Office of the Attorney General, is provision 31, which is described on page 8 of the document. This would require the comptroller to transfer $10 million from OAG's consumer protection recoveries to the general fund by May
Okay.
1st, 2022.
All right, do I hear a motion?
Mr. Chair, I'd move to reject this.
Okay,
I
Second that,
second,
Mr. Chair.
second, Mr. Chair.
all in favor say aye, opposed is nay, hearing none, motion carries. Thank you very much.
We'll move on to
Next.
the subsequent injury fund on page 9. DLS recommended concurring, the agency concurred.
Okay.
Motion to adopt, sir.
Second,
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Okay, all in favor say aye, opposed is nay, motion carries. Thank you so much.
On page 10, the uninsured employers fund, DLS recommended adding a section to the back of the bill requesting a report on the structure of workers' compensation related agencies and restricting $100,000 in the uninsured employers fund, subsequent injury fund, and workers' compensation commission and Department of Budget and Management. And the agency disagreed.
I think that this is the first time that we've actually had a request of a report of this nature. And we're looking at the DLS recommendation of 100,000. Is there, and this is the first time we've asked for this type of report. So is there a motion from the subcommittee?
What do you think, Mr. Chairman? Maybe we just cut that in half and only require a 50,000?
Okay.
If that would be good, I'd like to make a motion to modify that amount to each agency to 50,000.
Okay.
I think that's reasonable. I'd second that motion.
Okay. Been moved to modify the amounts to reduce it to $50,000 per each agency. It's been properly seconded. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed is nay. Okay, motion on the modification carries. Next, thank you.
Going ahead to page 12 and the Workers' Compensation Commission, DLS
Hello?
I believe
Please,
Jason may have
get
been
out.
disconnected.
Yeah, I'll step in for a minute. On page 12, the Workers' Compensation Commission, DLS recommends concurring with the governor's allowance, and the agency concurred.
I move to adopt there, Mr. Chairman.
Second, Mr. Chair.
Okay, been moved and properly second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed is nay. Motion carries. Thank you.
Page 13 is the Board of Public Works. The first recommendation is some annual narrative about the zoo in which they provide information about their financial statements and their attendance. Agency concurs.
Okay, is this, isn't this annual language?
Yes, it is.
Okay, is there a motion?
Love the zoo, Mr. Chair, so I'll adopt, make a motion to adopt, please.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and properly second. All in favor say aye. Opposed is nay. Motion carries. Thank you.
Yeah, the other item for the Board of Public Works is a BRFA action in the BRFA as submitted by the governor. What this does is there are settlements for the erroneously convicted. At this point, the state fully funds that. The idea here is that it would become a 50% cost share between the state and the locals. This is a new item that you haven't seen until this year.
Right.
Mr. Chair, may I ask the Vice Chair a question?
Go right ahead.
Madam Vice Chair, I think we had some conversations about this. This is a subject that's really, really important to you. Before I vote on something like this, I really like to hear about you, of any ideas you may have on this, either to adopt or reject.
I have no problem with the locals picking up 50%, but I don't want the individual to have to seek this. I want the state to pay it, and then if the locals repay, that would be satisfactory to me.
Okay. Well, then, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to reject this.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, to move and properly second. All in favor say aye. Opposed,
Aye.
nay. Hearing none, motion carries. Next.
On page 14 is the executive department for the governor. The recommendation was to concur with the governor's allowance. The agency concurred.
Move to adopt there, Mr. Chair.
Second, Mr. Chair.
All in favor say aye.
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 Nay. Motion carries.
Going on to the next agency, the Executive Department, Boards, Commissions, and Offices on page 15. The first DLS recommendation is to adopt narrative on MBE and SBR liaison vacancies throughout state agencies. I also want to turn your attention to the first color page on page 16, which is similar, but also requests some additional information about the liaison program.
Okay. Is there a
I mean, Mr. Chair, I've got some concerns. I really do believe that we probably ought to reject the recommendation, but yet move to adopt the color page that Ms. Grace was just talking about.
okay? Is there a second?
I second, Mr. Chair.
Okay, moving properly second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Hearing none. Motion carries. And next.
And then there's one more color page about MBE participation throughout the state agencies on page 17.
Okay, do we have a motion?
Move to adopt, Mr. Chair.
Second, Mr. Chair.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Hearing none. Motion carries. Thank you.
The next agency is the Secretary of State's office. The recommendation was to concur, and the office concurs.
Move to adopt, Mr. Chair.
Second,
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
All right, we have a motion, properly second. All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Next.
For the Governor's Office of Crime Prevention, Youth and Victim Services on page 20, item number 1 deletes 2 positions from the budget that are unfunded and long vacant. There is a related color page item just underneath that would restrict these 2 positions for the purpose of being reclassified to support deficiencies related to oversight and grant management.
Okay. Look at the totality of the recommendation and the color page. A motion from the subcommittee.
So if I understand this right, it seems to me that we ought to reject the language, but yet adopt the language from the new color page. So my motion would be to reject and then adopt.
Okay, so second.
I second, Mr. Chair.
All right, we have a motion and properly second. All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Next.
Okay, on the bottom of page 20 and continuing on to page 23, there is a recommendation to restrict funds pending the submission of a report related to continuity of services for VOCA money and the associated programmatic funding for the federal VOCA funds. There is an associated color page that begins right after that item, beginning on page 23 and continuing on to page 28. And this language would establish the intent that VOCA funding be provided at a level equal to the fiscal 2020 awards. It establishes a mechanism to reduce funds among providers should VOCA funding not be available. And it expands the reporting requirement for VOCA awards, the services provided, and the related expenditures.
Okay. Is there a motion from the subcommittee?
Mr. Chair, I move that we adopt the
Okay.
subcommittee language.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, then moved and properly second. All in favor say aye, opposed nay. None, hearing none, motion carries.
Okay, on page 29, item number 3, it restricts funds within the office pending the submission of a report that details the findings of an independent audit related to the office's grant management practices.
Is there a motion?
I think I'll move to adopt, Mr. Chair.
Okay, is there a second?
I have a question.
Okay, we'll hold the motion for the question.
We're under agencies, hearing notes concur in part. The agency suggested a private firm. And I think that we wanted to make sure that it was an accounting firm.
Well, the language as written leaves the DLS recommendation as it is, and it includes language that the office contract with a private accounting firm rather than just a general private firm.
So, Mr. Councilman, if we adopt the narrative as recommended by DLS, that would address the concerning issue that the Vice Chair has, correct?
Right, if I understand correctly, the concern is that the language is too broad.
So do I hear a motion to adopt the DLS recommendation?
That was my motion, was to adopt, sir. So
okay, all right.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Thank you for reiterating that, Delegate McKay. Second, is there a second?
I second, Mr. Chair.
Okay. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, nay. Hearing none, motion carries.
Okay, on the bottom of page 30, item number 4 performs a fund swap. It replaces general fund expenditures for the Violence Intervention and Prevention Program and utilizes the available special fund balance. And this would create $1.7 million in general fund savings.
Move to adopt, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second?
A second, Mr. Chair.
Okay, it's been moved and properly second. Motion carries. All in favor say aye.
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 No nays, motion carries. Okay, next.
Okay, beginning on page 31 and carrying on to the bottom of page 32, there is annual language to restrict funds pending the submission of the out-of-home placements report.
Continuing to page 32. All right. Is there a motion from the committee?
So moved, Mr. Chairman, to adopt.
Okay, is there a second?
I second, Mr. Chair.
All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Next.
Okay, there is a color page item on page 33. This is committee narrative that requests an update from Baltimore City related to their comprehensive 5-year crime strategy.
Okay.
Move to adopt, Mr. Chairman.
I second, Mr. Chairman.
All right. All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay.
Okay, we're going to jump to page 35. This will be the military department. The first recommendation was from DLS was to concur with the governor's allowance, and the agency concurs.
Move to adopt, Mr. Chair.
Is there a second?
I second, Mr. Chair.
Okay. All in favor say aye. If you oppose, nay. Okay, motion carries.
There are 2 color page items on page 35. The first one is related to the Free Challenge Academy. and the associated impact of COVID-19 on the academy operations.
Mr. Chair, this is you had brought up on the Free State Challenge Academy where we had attended a couple years ago to, and some of that. So I do believe this was some language that was suggested by you, correct, sir?
That is correct, right?
Okay, then I'll move to adopt, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
I second, Mr. Chair.
Okay, it's been moved properly second. All in favor say aye. Opposed nay. Hearing none, motion carries. Thank you very much.
The second item is going to be on page 36. It's related to the Amos Fund and requests information related to the disbursements of the Amos Fund and the application of the maintenance of effort requirement.
Okay, is there a motion from the subcommittee?
I move to adopt.
Okay, is there a
Second,
second?
Mr. Chair.
All right, all in favor say aye. Opposed nay. Hearing none, motion carries. Yes.
On page 38, we have the Maryland Department of Veterans Affairs. Here, DLS concurred with the governor's allowances introduced for fiscal 22. However, in fiscal 21, there was a $4.2 million grant given to the contractor of the veterans home. And the special fund that is dedicated to the home was not used for that. So DLS does have a BRFA recommendation there, number 105 DLS additional, that would transfer $1 million from the Charlotte Hall Veterans Home Special Fund to the general fund for fiscal 22.
Okay. What I want to do is to take this sort of collectively to concur with the governor's allowance and also the BRFA recommendation at the same time. So I want to move both of them to adopt collectively. Is there a motion from the subcommittee?
So moved there, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
I second, Mr. Chair.
Okay, all in favor say aye. Any opposed? Nay. Hearing none, the motion carries. Thank you.
The next agency is the Comptroller of Maryland on page 39. Our recommendation 1 is to increase the turnover rate and reduce general and special funds accordingly.
Okay, is there a motion from the subcommittee?
I move to adopt, Mr. Chair.
All right, is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chair.
All in favor say aye. Opposed nay. Hearing none, the motion carries.
The second recommendation is to adopt committee narrative asking for a status update on the integrated tax system major IT project.
Okay, is there a motion?
So moved to adopt this recommendation, Mr. Chair.
Second, Chair.
All right, it's been moved and properly second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nay. Hearing none, motion carries. Thank you so much. Next.
The next agency is the Alcohol and Tobacco Commission on page 40. The recommendation was to concur and the agency concurred.
Okay, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to adopt.
Okay, second. Okay, moved and properly second. All in favor say aye. Opposed nay. Hearing none, motion carries. Next.
Next is the State Treasurer's Office on page 41. The recommendation was to concur and the office concurs.
Is there a motion?
Move to adopt, Mr. Chair.
Okay, we moved and properly second. All in favor say aye. Opposed nay. Hearing none, motion carries. Next.
Next is the State Department of Assessments and Taxation on page 42. The first recommendation is to adopt narrative asking for a report on data on tax lien sales.
Okay, is there a motion from the subcommittee?
I move to adopt, please, Mr. Chairman.
Okay,
Second, Mr. Chair.
all right, been moved and properly second. All in favor say aye. Opposed nay. And motion carries. Thank you so much. Next.
Recommendation number 2 for the agency is to adopt a narrative asking for a report on staffing in the real property valuation division.
Okay. Just give me 1 second. Okay, this is item 20, correct?
It should be number 2 for the State Department of Assessments and Taxation on page number 43.
No wonder I wanted to wait here. I wasn't looking at the right page. Thank you so much.
I think, Mr. Chair, this was that was that narrative that the agency didn't respond to us.
Right. No response. So is there a motion from the subcommittee?
I'll move to adopt, Mr. Chair.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and properly second. All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay.
Aye.
Hearing none. The motion carries.
There is one BRFA item for the agency on page number 44. This is item number 20 that would increase the local cost share for SDAT administrative expenses.
Is there a motion to reject?
Motion. I make a motion to reject.
Second.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Hearing none, the motion carries.
Okay, next is the Department of Information Technology.
Just for the record, I just want to make clear on the record that on item 20 in the State Department of Assessment Taxation, there was no response from the agency, correct? Is that right?
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's correct.
It was deafening.
Yes.
Go right ahead. Thank you so much.
Okay, page 45 is the Department of Information and Technology. The recommendation here is a review of the state cybersecurity. We want to take a look at what can be done to address recent audits. Also, increased risk related to remote work, and also how the state is responding to evolving cybersecurity threats. The agency concurs.
Okay. I think this has always been a big issue that's becomes more important every year when we talk about cybersecurity and the use of technology. But I actually have to say, I think the subcommittee, when we were looking at this during budget hearings, by us and everyone else pretty much in the state, around the state, working remotely and virtually, I think it's really important that we really try to stay on top of the cybersecurity issues as we're continuing to do so. Is there a motion from the subcommittee?
After that fine speech, Mr. Chair, I concur and like to move to adopt.
Second, Mr. Chair.
It's been moved and properly seconded. All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. Hearing none. Motion carries. Next.
Okay, next is the Department of General Services on page 46. This is once again an item related to remote work. This narrative is recommended. This one, though, looks more at what are state agencies' needs going to be, especially as we get out of the pandemic. We may have quite a bit of remote work continuing, and we'd like the department to take a look at that, to survey agencies and to evaluate the cost and benefits of changing some of its strategies regarding office space, and agency concurs.
Move to adopt there, Mr. Chair.
Second, Mr. Chair.
All right, it's been moved and properly second. All in favor say aye. All opposed, nay. Hearing none, the motion carries. Okay.
And on page 47 is the final item for the Department of General Services. This is a BRFA action. This reduces the payments in lieu of taxes or pilots grant from the state to the city of Annapolis from $750,000 to $367,000.
Okay. Do I hear a motion from the subcommittee?
In memory of the coach, I'd like to make a motion to reject, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Is there
Second,
all-
Mr. Chair.
Okay. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Hearing none, that motion carries. Thank you so much, Mr. Frank. Next. Mr. Weiss, who do we have next up?
Analyst, sorry, go ahead, Jacob.
Sorry, Caleb. This is the Department of Public Safety and Correctional Services on page 48, beginning with administration and offices. The first piece of narrative is annual report on the Justice Reinvestment Act.
Okay, is there a motion from the subcommittee?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
To
I
adopt.
second, Mr. Chair.
Okay, it's been moved and properly second. All in favor say aye, opposed nay. Hearing none, the
Aye.
motion carries. Okay.
The second report is committee narrative on, well, the second committee narrative is a report on position abolishments and reclassifications. This is in relation to the 350 positions that are required to be abolished this year by the department through budget language.
Okay.
I'd like to, I'm sorry, did you have a comment, Mr. Chair?
No, go right ahead, Delegate McKay.
I'd like to move that we adopt this narrative, please.
All right, is there a second?
Second, Chair.
All right, it's been moved and properly second. All in favor say aye, opposed nay. Motion carries.
The third piece of narrative is a report on recidivism, and this would provide 3-year recidivism numbers.
Move to
Okay.
adopt, Mr. Chair.
All right.
Second, Mr. Chair.
Okay, all in favor say aye, opposed nay. Hearing none, the motion carries.
On page 50, the Department of Corrections, the Division of Corrections, the first piece of narrative is for the Maryland Correctional Enterprises regarding their staffing programs and sales.
I move to adopt this narrative there, Mr. Chair.
Okay,
Second,
there's
Mr. Chair.
been moved and properly second. All in favor say aye, opposed nay. None. Motion carries.
On page 51, this is budget bill language restricting $100,000 until the department submits the first of 4 quarterly hiring and attrition reports.
Okay. On this particular issue, we've asked for this type of information or these reports previously? Is
Yes,
correct?
Yes.
we
Okay.
have, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, and we've had a little bit of problem getting those reports in. So I remember during the budget hearings, we had some discussion about this. So I'll entertain a motion from the subcommittee.
I move to adopt.
Second, Mr. Chair.
Can we have some discussion there, Mr. Chair?
Yes, let's hold the motion for a moment for some discussion. As requested by Delegate McKay. Go right ahead.
If I'm not understanding where I'm trying to pick up what you're laying down, Mr. Chair, that because we've had many times of not getting what we need, I'm wondering, do we need to modify this to maybe increase it to 200,000?
Right. Well, I think the issue is, that we have had some problems before. These reports haven't come in. It's not, we're limited in what we can do in the department. We've understand some of the challenges that they're having, but I think increasing the dollar figure would be along those lines, and perhaps of looking at how those funds are released might be just a little bit more weight, and with our request and just making sure those reports get in so we can continue to take a look at this. But I know we have a motion that's on the floor right now, so I'm going to ask the maker of that motion, would they rescind that motion?
Yes, I will. I will rescind that motion.
Okay. And so we can just walk through this. I would like to entertain a motion that would modify the language to increase the amount withheld from 100,000 to 200,000 to be released pending the second report. Do I hear a motion from the committee?
I move to adopt.
Okay.
Discussion, Mr. Chair?
Excuse me?
Well.
No,
there's a-
go,
there's a
no,
motion.
no, go right ahead, Delegate McKay.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Cash, the reports that we've asked, have we received them? Were they received late? Did we not get them? Or
We've received, so for the previous year, we required monthly reports. The funds were released after the first report in good faith, and they were submitting the rest of them up until December. I believe we still received the information for December. However, since then, they haven't. They have agreed to submit all of the required data, but they haven't submitted it in a monthly fashion.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for allowing me to ask that question, sir.
Right, and I think we heard similar comments during the budget hearing, and that's the reason why on the motion that I want to entertain targets the second report to address the issue you just brought up that we heard testimony on. So do I hear a so moved on the motion or a motion from the subcommittee?
I think Delegate Proctor had moved your motion, and
Okay, was there a second?
I'll go ahead and second it. I do believe that the department can get that to us in a timely fashion. So while it does increase it, I think they'll be able to get it to us going forward. So thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll second.
You're quite welcome. There's a motion, there's a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Hearing none, the motion to modify the recommendation carries. Next, thank you so much.
On page 52, item number 3 under the Division of Corrections is a report on pre-release opportunities related to 2 facilities being closed this year or being scheduled for closure by the end of fiscal 2021. There is a related BRFA action that allows the department or guarantees employees within those facilities that they would have a guaranteed position elsewhere in the department. And then there is also a color page associated with these items that would restrict enough funding to keep those facilities open rather than closing them.
So let me just sort of pause for a moment, because we've heard testimony not only this year, but we've from previous years, the issue of pre-release and pre-release opportunities. I'm not going to rehash the whole testimony because the subcommittee knows the issue. My question, Mr. Cash, is that if we look at the color page item on page 53, where we would look at maintaining those 2 pre-release units, so to speak, logistically, we would adopt the color page and reject the 2 narrative items on 52. Is that correct?
That's correct, sir.
Okay. Is there any discussion from the subcommittee at this point? If not,
I just want to make sure that I understand clearly what's happening. There is not going to be a break in service at these pre-release programs. Is that true, Mr. Cash?
That would be my understanding. Of course, the department has made plans and it is possibly undergoing some of those plans, and possibly they would have to do things in the meantime before fiscal 2022 starts. But you are correct. It would not, there would not be a stopping and starting of the facilities. It would provide continuous funding.
okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're quite welcome, Madam Vice Chair. Do I have a motion from the subcommittee?
I move to adopt.
Okay. Let's Madam Vice Chair, if I can just get you to modify that motion. I understand what you're adopting, but I think we also need to add in that we're rejecting the language on 52 and adopting the language on 53 collectively.
Okay.
That's what I'm understanding you, correct?
Yes,
But-
Mr. Chair, I move to reject page 52 and to adopt color page 53.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second that, Mr. Chair.
Okay, all right, all in favor say aye, opposers nay, hearing none, the motion carries. Thank you so much. Next.
On page 54, the community supervision function. The first piece of narrative is a staffing report and caseload report.
Okay, do I hear a motion to adopt?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second, Mr. Chair.
All right, all in favor say aye, opposers nay. Okay, hearing none, motion carries. Next.
The second action is an increase to budgeted turnover, which would remove $2 million in general funds from the budget, and the department disagrees.
I move that we reject this recommendation, Mr. Chair.
Okay, is there a second?
A second, Mr. Chair.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposers nay. Hearing none, the motion carries. Thank you. Next.
On page 55, we have a color page item for community supervision. This would restrict $100,000 until the department submits a report on the drinking driver monitor program. This includes intent language that the department collaborates with DBM to create a new senior monitor position, a monitor 3 classification that would provide a grade increase to those senior monitors who may be disincentivized from staying with the department because of the lack of a senior position.
Okay, I just want to just pause very quickly because this is not a new issue to the subcommittee. We've been dealing with this for at least 3 years. Last year, I think we added some narrative, but it didn't really do too much. So we're just going to revisit this item with the suggested budget language and see, if we can get a little bit more reaction from the department on the requested request in the budget language. So is there a motion from the subcommittee?
I'll move to adopt there, Mr. Chair.
All right. Is there a second?
A second, Mr. Chair.
Okay, all in favor say aye, opposers nay. Hearing none, motion carries.
On page 57, the Police and Correctional Training Commission, DLS recommends to concur with the governor's allowance and the agency concurs.
Move to adopt, Mr. Chair.
Second, Mr. Chair.
All in favor say aye, opposers nay. Hearing none, motion carries.
On page 58, the Division of Pretrial Detention and Services, the first action would restrict the entire appropriation for substance use disorder treatment, or SUD for short. This is about $7.1 million across the department, and it would allow the department to use those funds anywhere in the department, but only for that purpose of substance use disorder treatment.
Okay, is there a motion from the subcommittee?
I'll move to adopt, Mr. Chair.
Okay,
A second, Mr. Chair.
all in favor say aye, opposers nay. Hearing none, motion carries.
The second item is a restriction of $500,000 until the department submits a report on the Chesapeake Detention Facility and their attempts to renegotiate the monthly payment from the U.S. Marshal Service.
Okay, I think this is, again, the subcommittee has revisiting this issue from last year without rehashing the comments of the subcommittee, the hearing rather. Is there a motion from the subcommittee?
I move to adopt.
Okay.
Second, Mr. Chair.
All right, all in favor say aye, opposers nay. Hearing none, motion carries.
The third piece of language and final for the Department of Public Safety and Correctional Services restricts $100,000 of substance use disorder treatment funds. That would be the 7.1 million I identified earlier. Until they submit a report on their substance use disorder treatment services and their medication assisted treatment pilot program in Baltimore City. The agency disagrees in part, but only with the restricting of the funds. They agree for the report.
Okay, is there a motion from the subcommittee?
Move to adopt.
All right.
Second, Mr. Chair.
All right, it's been moved and properly second. All in favor say aye. Opposed? Hearing
Chair,
none.
I'd like to be against this one.
Okay, Mr. Weaver, can you make sure that we have the vote corrected accurately on?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're quite welcome. Next.
So on page 61, the Department of Juvenile Services, item number 1, restricts funds pending a 1-year update on the Baltimore City strategic partnership. The agency concurs.
Okay. We are looking at the Department of Juvenile Services and item 1 on page 61, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. We know this issue. We dealt with this issue last year. I think we're all okay with perhaps the language, but I know that there may have been just a little bit of a hurdle as this was going through last year in order to get everything in and on time and et cetera. So I think that we should modify the amount of the that's being withheld pending the report. And so with that having been said, is there any further discussion or a motion to be presented?
Mr. Chair, if that's the director that you want, maybe we would make a motion to modify just withholding 100,000 for pending the report. So it'd be a reduction of 150,000 just down to 100,000. If
Okay.
that pleases the chair.
Yeah, and you know, and if it doesn't get better, well, we know we can always increase next year. It's always next year. So is there a second?
A second. Mr. Chair.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposes nay. Hearing none, the motion carries. Okay, to modify the recommendation. Thank you so much.
On page 63, we have the Department of State Police. Item recommends deleting 8 civilian positions and the associated funding being provided to the licensing division to account for current vacancies. The agency disagrees.
Mr. Chair, we've been dealing with this for a couple of years now, and it would go counterproductive to adopt. So I would rather us reject this if we may, sir. I'd like to reject. Make that motion.
Okay. Is there a second?
I second, Mr. Chair.
All right, it's been moved and properly second. All in favor say aye. Opposed is nay. Hearing none, motion to reject carries. Next.
Item number 2 proposes to increase the turnover expectancy to 25% as is consistent with budgeting standards for the new positions provided to the licensing division. The agency disagrees.
Okay. Is there a motion to modify to increase turnover to 25% for all 21 new pens?
So, Mr. Chair, I know that we've had conversations with the state police over this. I understand their disagreement, but I also understand the direction in which we want to go as a subcommittee under your leadership. So I'm going to make that motion to modify to increase the turnover to 25% for all 21 new positions, please.
Okay, is there a second?
I second that motion.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nay. Okay, hearing none. The motion to modify item 2 carries. Next.
Okay, item number 3 on page 63 recommends adopting committee narrative pending the submission of a report on the implementation of the transition to the National Incident-Based Reporting System. The agency concurs.
Move to adopt, Mr. Chair.
All right, is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so moved and properly second. All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay.
Aye.
Hearing none, the motion carries. Next.
Okay, and on page 64 and continuing on to page 65 is annual budget language that restricts $1 million pending the submission of the Uniform Crime Report. The agency concurs.
Okay.
Move to adopt, Mr. Chair.
Let's have some discussion on this particular item. This is annual language. We know that we heard some testimony that this has been a reoccurring kind of concern or issue on getting those reports in and getting them in on a timely manner, but not to rehash all the testimony. Some of it is within the control of the state police. Some of it may not be. That's debatable depending upon how that data is received from the local jurisdictions. We have the recommendation, but I think that it is a better step that if we keep the language, and I know you have a motion out there, Mr. Delegate McKay, but reduce the amount that's being held from $1 million down to $250,000. If
I'll withdraw my motion. That sounds in a better posture. So yes, sir, I remove my motion there.
Okay. So you, just so that we're clear, you have a motion to modify item 4 from $1 million to 250, the amount that's being withheld, with all the language being the same. Is that correct?
So I had just withdrawn mine, but I will make that motion now to 200,000.
Thank you, Delegate McKay. Is there a second? I
second that motion.
Okay, so just so we're clear on this particular item, the only modification to item 4 in the motion is reducing the amount withheld from 1 million to 250,000. Okay, and that's been moved and properly second. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposes nay. Hearing none, the motion carries.
With that, Mr. Chairman, that's actually the last item. So.
All right. Well, we've done it within an hour time frame, and we certainly want to just make sure that we have cover all of our decisions. So I'm just going to sort of do a uniform motion here. And do I hear a motion to adopt the 4 decisions of the subcommittee at this juncture?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Second, Mr. Chair.
All right. It's been moved and properly second. All in favor say aye.
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 Nay. Hearing none. Motion carries. That concludes our decision document, our decisions for the Public Safety Administration Subcommittee during the 2021 session. I want to personally thank the Vice Chair for her leadership on the budget decisions and the hearings this session. Personally want to thank Delegate Alcevera for his insight and participation and on many issues throughout the hearing process. And I want to also thank Delegate Mike McKay for his participation and insight and comments and discussions as we're continuing to collectively move through the issues on the Public Safety Administration Subcommittee. As we all know, some of these issues are not new, they're reoccurring. And so the insight that everybody brings on some of these reoccurring issues is just really invaluable. And I must say that I think this is probably one of the quickest and smoothest decision days we have had virtually. Oh, this is the only one we've had virtually. So, and I definitely want to make sure that we recognize Mr. Ken Weaver, who has kept the ship steady afloat. Give him a big shout out. His assistance has been invaluable. This is his first year with the subcommittee as staff, correct? And
I think it would be appropriate, Mr. Chair, for us to buy Mr. Weaver an adult beverage if we see him along Main Street to thank him for his good work.
I will not only
large for him.
I will not only second that motion if Mr. Weaver is in fact a drinker of adult beverage, but I was going to say I'd move to journalize the chair's comments about Mr. Weaver. I do agree. Thank you so much, Mr. Weaver, for all your help, but also all the DLS staff.
Yeah. And so with that, our coordinator, Mr. Weiss, you've done an excellent, outstanding job as well in getting us through this process, and especially virtually, because we understand that this is different. We have everybody moving in and out and everything flow very nicely. And we definitely appreciate that, and to all the DLS staff and appropriation staff for getting us through this sort of extraordinary process. The first time we've done it this way. And it couldn't have gone more efficient, more effective. So with that, thank you, everyone, and we are adjourned.
All right, have a good evening.
Have a good evening, everyone.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair.